Hank woke up to find his phone showing 10 missed calls and an equal number of voicemails. He didn't recognize the area code. After several run-ins with Chinese robo-marketing spam calls, he set his phone to send unknown numbers to voicemail. Beijing Betty usually didn't leave messages. His daughters weren't up yet, so he started listening to messages. That's when he learned that his wife, Randy, had not been in Jacksonville, Florida, to visit her parents and sister for the weekend, as she had told him. Instead, she was in the burn unit of a hospital in Boulder, Colorado. Hank was silent for a moment. His phone gave him news alerts. It was usually a nuisance, but spending time disabling the feature never seemed worth it. Something about fires stuck in his head. He realized he had seen a news headline with the words, "Fire" and "Boulder," when his phone screen came to life that morning. He went to his phone's home page and saw a news headline, "Haunting wildfire destroys suburban Boulder overnight." Interesting. Hank would be the first to admit that sometimes he wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, but he could really only think of one reason why his wife, Randy, in her 8th year of marriage, was lying about where she was going to spend the weekend. He deliberately slowed down. There's no point in rushing. He made coffee. The girls won't get up for at least another hour. He took the coffee to his wife's work area in the dining room and took her laptop. It turned out that he was now protected by a password that he did not know. But Randy was distracted and lazy, so he looked for the password written on some piece of paper and found it at the bottom of the drawer of the small desk. Once he gained access, he discovered that she had not even closed her email browsers. She just turned off her computer, relying on her new password and, obviously, her confidence that Hank wouldn't invade her privacy. All the assumptions that existed in this family before this morning no longer apply, Hank thought. And so it was. Everything has changed. She met up with her ex-college boyfriend, Josh Turner, at his Boulder home on weekends while Josh's wife was away. This was the guy who broke Randy's heart by falling in love and marrying another woman. It seems that over the years he has developed remorse towards the abandoned woman, or just lust. The emails didn't have much detail, mostly just confirmation of arrival time. Hank assumed they poured their hearts out to each other over the phone. One interesting fact came to light. Her parents and sister knew and agreed to cover up her affair. This was not in emails, but in Facebook Messenger chats that were also open. They all thought she should have married Josh, whose family had money. Hank just froze, as if he was watching a car accident in slow motion and couldn't look away. He took a moment to breathe deeply and calm down a bit. He needed it. Otherwise, he might have punched holes in the drywall walls of the house. He called the hospital in Boulder. When the switchboard answered, on a whim, it asked if Josh Turner was a patient. When they asked Hank to define his relationship with Mr. Turner, he said that he was his friend. The operator then said that she could not provide any information. This answer definitely confirmed that they had a patient named Josh Turner. Hank then called the number left in his voicemail. It was a direct line to the hospital emergency department. After he identified himself, the clerk there told him that Randy had been brought in with third-degree burns over 80% of her body, including lung damage from smoke inhalation. The fire appears to have suddenly broken out in the drought-stricken area, spreading quickly amid strong winds and cutting off the only escape route. More than 100 houses were burned and destroyed. "Sorry," Hank said. "It can't be my wife. She is in Jacksonville, Florida. You must have wrong information." He hung up. Yes, of course there was one in Boulder. He felt it, but he wasn't going to make it easy for anyone. He looked at his wife's computer again and found Josh's Facebook page. Randy truly made him one of her friends. There he found Josh's wife. She posted publicly from her family's home in San Diego, asking for prayer because she had just learned that her husband had been hospitalized with severe burns in Boulder. It's about time those prayers were answered by the God of vengeance. Hank thought as he contacted Josh's wife on Facebook Messenger to introduce himself and share what he had found out. He left his phone number. Sometime later, while finishing his coffee, he saw another missed call. He didn't recognize the number, but there was a voicemail from Josh's wife, Tina. Hank called her back. "Miss Turner? Is your name really Tina?" He had to ask. "Yes," she said with a sigh. "When I got married, you might have feared that this would happen to the woman Josh rejected. I married for love. Now it's just a complete breakdown. You must be Randy's husband." "Yes." Of course, I knew about her when Josh and I met. He had been acting strange lately, but I didn't understand why. Now it all makes sense. Is it the same for you? Something like that. I knew about Josh, but Randy wasn't acting fussy at all. So I didn't notice anything. You take it in your stride, Hank. How do you do this? You also speak calmly. I'm taking pills, Tina said. Josh was badly burned. They've already put him in a medically induced coma. I lost my composure when I heard this. Now I'm just in shock, especially knowing the truth about what really happened. What is your wife's story? Badly burned. I don't know more. I told them it couldn't be her because my wife was in Florida. Tina giggled. About. The hospital calls again. Let me answer, and let's keep in touch. She hung up and Hank saved her number in his contacts to prevent the spam blocker from sending the call to voicemail. A new call came in, from Randy's father, Bob. Bob must have seen the news and become worried. Yes? Hank? Yes? There was a pause. Bob never liked Hank, and Hank disliked Bob in return, but they always maintained the appearance of polite communication. Now Bob noticed there was no sense of politeness. Hank, have you heard anything from Randy? Hank paused. This question must have cost Bob his blood, from a moral point of view. Why would I hear from her? She's upstairs in her old room, isn't she? Spends time with you, your obstinate wife, and your other stupid daughter. Bob realized that Hank knew. He sighed. Hank, she really loves you. I know we never got along. Bob, Hank interjected, his voice getting louder. This is bullshit. And before you keep talking and irritate me even more, keep in mind that I'm well aware that you've always disliked me. You were sure that I was unworthy of your daughter, but Josh was worthy. Hank hung up. There was really nothing more to say. However, to save time, he blocked Bob's phone numbers, as well as those of his mother-in-law and sister-in-law. Dad, why are you screaming? Asked his daughter Nicole, entering the kitchen. Her younger sister Rebecca followed. Dad said a bad word, Rebecca announced. Is it true? Asked Nicole. Say it again, Dad. I didn't hear that. Hank had to smile. What was that bad word, Becky? She frowned. I can't remember. You must have heard wrong. Now let's have breakfast. Today will be a pancake day. 3 pancakes each and some orange juice. Then both girls watched cartoons. After all, it was Saturday morning. They loved Bubble Guppies. Hank hoped that these were cartoons, a path to something more substantial, like Pinky and the Brain or Phineas and Ferb. The phone rang again. It was Tina Turner. The pills don't work. What? The pills I told you about that, I take to calm down? Well, they don't work. Why do you say that, Miss Tina Turner? At the hospital they connected me to, where Josh is in intensive care. The nursey put me on speakerphone. She thought it might help Josh to hear my voice even though he was in a coma. And what? I lost my temper. I shouted that his girlfriend was also badly burned and would probably die, and that it was his fault, and that after you and I both collected our life insurance payouts, we would go on a cruise around the world and spend the entire time having sex, friend, with a friend to the point of stupor in order to pay. His heart almost stopped when he heard me. Even though he's in a coma? Yes. It's hard to say whether it was my screaming that caused this or whether it was just a coincidence. However, he pulled through. I'm sorry. She paused. It's a pity. Why are you sorry? Are you sorry that his heart almost stopped? Or are you sorry that he is still alive? All of Hank's instincts were towards cruelty, but he controlled himself. It's just a shame that it all turned out this way. Me too. After a pause, he asked, Tell me about this cruise we're going on. Sorry, I don't know where this came from. And yet I'm interested. I bet that's true. She paused. Are you really interested, Hank? I saw on Facebook that you have a beautiful face, but I didn't particularly follow you on the internet. If I had to spend my time getting revenge by fucking someone, you'd be a pretty good choice. Why do you ask? I have a chance? I don't know, she answered slowly. I just spent the time since I realized he was cheating, wondering what was wrong with me. Seeing that you're interested makes me feel a little better. You don't look too bad yourself anyway. Hank snorted. Thank you. That's good to hear, even if my wife clearly preferred your husband. Maybe the problem is not us. For some reason, I think so too. Tina Turner paused again. Have you ever wondered why they did it? I guess it was because they thought they could have sex on the side and get away with it. It sounds so simple. Well, what else? Tina said decisively. Listen, we both have a lot to process, but let's keep in touch. We are the only two people who understand what the other is feeling right now. Fine. I need to buy Bermuda shorts from Amazon for a cruise and swimming trunks. She giggled. At least you make me feel better. Maybe the pills worked. Get a cabin with a balcony. She giggled again. Bye. They hung up. Hank saw that he had another voicemail. It was the hospital again. He called back and connected with the nurse in Randy's room. She also turned on speakerphone. It must have been a different nurse than the one who cared for Josh, but they all seemed to be operating under the same set of industry medical guidelines. Mr. Henry Becker? Yes. I'm Nurse Yang. We're on speakerphone now. I am in the burn intensive care unit of a hospital. Your wife is here. She is badly burned and is in a medically induced coma. She's next to me. We hope the sound of your voice can help, even if she is unconscious. Hank thought that after today, the hospital would have to update its standard procedures for dealing with a patient's family. But he had to ask, why do you think so? I wasn't there when they brought her. One of my girlfriends was there. She said that your wife had a death grip on her hand and did not let go until they realized that she was demanding. Call your husband. So sorry. Your wife fought the team with all the strength she had and did not allow them to do anything until they assured her that they would convey the message. Okay. Too little, too late, Hank thought. What should I say? Tell her everything that's on your heart, the nurse said naively. Okay, Hank thought. The game begins. Listen, you pathetic liar, he shouted at his wife on the phone. I hope you spend eternity in hell with Josh, who also dies. Just so you know, I'm going to use all the life insurance money I get to seduce Josh's wife, and I will never forgive you. The line went dead. The nurse must not have been listening when he started, but she seemed to come to her senses. Hank realized that at this rate, he would not achieve his peace of mind goals. Someday he would probably feel some guilt for saying all that, but today was not that day. Dad, what does seduce mean? Becky asked, holding her teddy bear in her hands. My little ones. Oh, that means misleading someone. She considered this with a serious face. When will Mom return home? That's what really pissed him off, having to tell your daughters what's going on. He should have thought about it carefully, but he wasn't in the mood. As soon as she can, Becky. Becky returned to the living room. Hank watched as she plopped down in front of the TV. There was no way in hell he was going to take the girls to Colorado, to the hospital, to see their mother wrapped in bandages like a mummy, so they wouldn't have those memories. 30 minutes later, he had tickets for a week to Disneyland, a reservation at one of Mickey's hotels, and plane tickets. They left the next morning. Nicole will have to miss kindergarten for a bit, but so be it. As soon as he received the tickets, the hospital called back. It turned out that Randy had a heart attack and died. All efforts to save her were in vain. Hank asked when. This was right around the time he yelled at her. Maybe he would tell Tina to try yelling at Josh again. No, let her figure this out for herself. Hank ended up having to send Randy's health insurance information to the hospital to force them to give him death papers. He called the funeral home there and made arrangements for her cremation. With her burns, Hank thought he could get a discount, but they told him they were still going to charge him full price. He asked them to mail him the ashes after they returned from Disney. Once there, the girls were sad that their mom wasn't with them, but they refreshed themselves with plenty of sweets at the Bibbidi-Bobbidi boutique. Josh held out until Thursday. Tina wasn't yelling at him anymore, so maybe that helped him stick around. After his death, Tina returned to Colorado, living with friends because her house burned down. She acted like a noble widow for the sake of her children, she told Hank. She didn't tell them about Randy. Tina's kids were older than Hank's, and they knew their father had been hurt in the fire, so it would all be harder to ignore. Hank's girls had no idea. He will continue in this manner for some time, but still, not telling them anything bad about their mother was not easy. Shortly after they returned from Florida, the FedEx guy came to the door with 2 items that required a signature. The first was a letter from her relatives. The second was the box containing Randy's ashes. The letter asked for Randy's remains to be held in Randy's hometown of Florida if Hank did not want to make arrangements where he lived. They must have been calling someone, he realized. The letter lacked any apology for covering for Randy. This fact made the next decision easier. He hired one teenage girl in the neighborhood to babysit the children and left the girls telling the nanny about their trip to Disney, complete with showing them all their belongings and photos on the iPad. Hank then drove to a nearby national park. With a box of Randy's ashes packed into a bag slung over his shoulder, Hank headed to one of the farther areas of the park. It had deep cinder-block toilets instead of bathrooms. He took a photo of himself dumping the ashes into the latrine. As he walked back to the car, he wondered if maybe he should do some therapy, but the thing was, he wasn't angry anymore. Well, I wasn't angry enough to hit anyone. Destroying a reputation is a completely different matter. He posted a video on Facebook of himself dumping the ashes into a restroom, along with an explanation. Afterwards, he wondered if the National Park Service was going to issue him some kind of fine for polluting the cesspool. If so, he will gladly pay. He never contacted her family, but saw in the newspaper that they were having some kind of memorial service in Jacksonville without him or his daughters. He told the girls that Mom had an accident while she was away, and she wouldn't be coming back. They took it as he expected. Luckily, they had wonderful kindergarten teachers to help and support them. The life insurance payout was nice. Randy had more insurance than Hank thought. The insurance benefits made it easier to restructure his working life. He decided that his daughters needed more fresh air, especially in playgrounds where there were many children, and pretty young mothers, many of whom were very sympathetic to his tragic story. He left out the part about Randy cheating. He wanted to be sympathized with, not pitied. Girls began to be invited to many playdates, to which mothers invited their cute single friends. Hank began to see a way forward. Hank never met Tina Turner, although they chatted on the phone from time to time. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.